Alright, welcome back to another episode of this playlist. So we've completed the first lab where we're supposed to create the inter-VLAN communication, where we've created 3 VLANs and then assigned the various interfaces to the various VLAN. So the second lab you're going to do is going to be the routing on stick, or router on stick. Let me do this, router on stick. Alright. So what we're gonna do with the router on stick, as I said earlier on, with the router on stick, I'm just going to use one link instead of using 3 links for each VLAN that we have. So what we'll do is I will maintain the 3 VLANs, right? I'll maintain the 3 VLANs, so I'll just copy them and paste them over here. And then I will also maintain the same arrangement whereby the interfaces are going to be assigned to the various VLANs that we have over here. But the thing that's going to change is how we'll manage one physical link in order for the 3 VLANs to use one link to communicate. So what I'm going to do is I'll make sure I reset the interfaces, okay? So the Giga 00, Giga 01, and the Giga 02. How do I reset the interfaces? So I will do something like this. I will type this command: default interface range gig 00/2. So it means what I want this particular range from Giga 00, Giga 01, and Giga 02 to be set to the default information. Alright, why is it? How is it not working? It has to work. Yeah, so this actually has reset. You see, I have this message: set the default. So now the interfaces have been set to the default information. If I check, I'm not gonna see the interface with interface IP gig 0/0. I'm not sure I'll see the configuration. Okay, let me do something. IP show IP show IP show interface. I have gig 0/0. You will see I don't have any configuration, like there's no IP address assigned to these interfaces because I've set these interfaces to the initial mode. And what I can do is I will shut them down. Okay, so interface range gig 0/0 to 2. Alright, and then shut down. So I'll off them. And then what I will do is I will remove the 3 links over here. I'll just come to this side and then cut the links. And I'm just gonna connect the 3 links. Okay. I'm not starting the lab from scratch. I'm just continuing with the previous lab I've used because I already have the VLANs created on this switch and I've already assigned the interfaces to those respective VLANs. So I'm just continuing with the configuration. I want this interface that will connect to Giga 00, and on this side I'll pick Giga 01. Okay, and the Giga 01 does not belong to any of the VLANs created on this particular switch, right? Alright, so what I'm going to do is the VLANs are created, and then VLANs are created. The interfaces have been assigned to the respective VLANs. If I have to check, it should be something like this: show VLAN brief. You can see I have VLAN 10 from 1 to 8. That's VLAN 10, 9 to 15, VLAN 1. VLAN 5 is from 1 to 8, and VLAN 20 is from 16 to 21. So what else I'm going to do? I have to create the interface for each VLAN. And this is where the trick is, because we only have one physical interface. How can we create each interface and configure an IP address that will serve as a gateway for each VLAN? So what you're going to do, we have to use the concept of what sub interface is. And how do we create the sub interface? The sub interface is always created based on the physical interface, an existing physical interface. In this case, my link from switch to the router is on giga 00, right? So what I'm gonna do is I would type interface gig 0/0. This is my physical interface. So to create a sub interface based on the physical interface, I will provide dot and then add the VLAN ID or the VLAN number. In this case, if I want to start with VLAN 5, then I gotta provide VLAN 5. Okay, if it's VLAN 10, I have to provide VLAN 10. If it's 20, I have to provide VLAN 20. You cannot provide a number which does not exist, okay, or a number of the VLAN that you've not created. It does not make sense. So I'll start with 5, okay, and then in this case I have to specify the encapsulation. If I try assigning IP address over here, it's not gonna work. Let's try and see. 168.5 and 1. You see how it's gonna be 0. You see, I have the message. The message is saying sub interface is already configured as part of an IEEE 802.110.802.1Q. So I have to provide the encapsulation. So what can I do? I'll type encapsulation dot 1Q, and over here I have to provide the VLAN ID. In this case, the VLAN ID is VLAN 5, right? So that when the packet is coming from VLAN 5, this router is when the packet is coming from VLAN 5, this router will be able to distinguish that this packet is from VLAN 5, or this is from VLAN 10, or this is from VLAN 20. If we don't provide the encapsulation, there's no way for the router to be able to make the difference or to distinguish the different or the packets coming from the various VLAN, right? So you provide the encapsulation, and then you can assign an IP address. In this case, I'll just recall the previous command, which is IP address 192.168.5.1, and provide the gateway. Run no shutdown. Even though it is a sub interface, but you should always run no shutdown. This shutdown is not going to reflect on the physical interface, because you are not working on the physical device, on the physical interface, but it's advisable to always run no shutdown. I'm done with the first sub interface. I have to configure the second. So interface gig 0/0, the number is VLAN 10, and then I have to provide the encapsulation.1Q VLAN 10. And then IP address, I have 192.168.10.1, 255.255.255.0. No shutdown. I've also done it for the second sub interface. I have to do the same thing for the third one. I can exit or maintain the mode. I'll just type interface gig 0/0.20. .20. Alright, and then encapsulation.20 over here. IP address, I have 192.168.20.1, 255.255.255.0, and then type no shutdown. Alright, so I've created all the sub interfaces, but one thing you should understand over here is that you see, the no shutdown I've been providing for each sub interface have not reflected on the physical interface. For this physical interface to come up, I need to run no shutdown on the physical interface. So what I'm going to do, I'll go into that physical interface, which is interface gig /0, and then run no shutdown. You see, automatically the interface has become up, and then when it happens like that, it automatically reflects the sub interfaces as well. So I will save my configuration. If I want to check if my sub interfaces really have IP addresses, I'll just go back to the privilege and show interface, show IP interface. Okay, show IP interface. So I have the various interface here. Let's look at the first one. I have the Giga Ethernet 00.5, which is the sub interface with the IP address. I'll look at the second one. more. I have the .10, okay, with the IP address as well. I have the okay, so this is the 20, this is it over here, Giga Ethernet 0/0.20. So this is my 3 sub interfaces I've created. Okay, so what's next? We all know the interface of the switch, the interfaces of the switch are on the access mode, and then on the access mode, by default, only one VLAN is allowed to pass through. So what can we do for the 3 other VLANs, okay, that we've created? Use the one physical link. We should make sure the interface is on trunk. So configuring the interface on trunk allows that interface to handle packets coming from different VLANs, because you are going to specify what are the VLANs that will travel through that particular link, right? And on this, the trunking is only done on the switch. Keep note of it. You don't trunk on the router, you always trunk on the switch. In this case, if there's an interface that should be trunked, should be the interface facing the physical interface of the router. So we need to go on the interface Giga 01. So let's move to interface Giga 0/1. So what we'll do is switch port mode trunk, okay, and we type switch port trunk allowed VLAN. Here we have to specify the VLANs that are gonna be allowed in this particular scenario, right? I have 3 VLANs that we want to allow on this particular interface. What are those VLAN? We have VLAN 5, we have VLAN 10, so VLAN 10, and then VLAN 20. If by mistake you don't provide, let's say, VLAN 10 and you just provide VLAN 5 and VLAN 20, it means the communication between VLAN 5 and 10 is not going to be possible. Between VLAN 10 and 20 is not going to be possible. Why? Because the VLAN 10 has not been allowed on the trunk. So you make sure you allow all the possible VLANs you want to communicate through that interface. In this case, I've allowed all the interfaces. And you see, I've not allowed VLAN 1 because I'm not going to use VLAN 1. I wouldn't have any traffic coming from VLAN 1. The traffic that I will be handling over here will come either from VLAN 5, 10, or VLAN 20. So I'll allow them and then type no shutdown. What can we do to check if the trunking has been configured successfully? We need to go back and then type show interface trunk. We'll see that we have Giga 01, okay. We have VLANs allowed and active in management domain. We have 5, 10, and 20. It means the 5, 10, and 20 can communicate through this one. So we gotta test and find out if the configuration has been a success. So we save our configuration. We save the configuration. What we'll do is come back to VLAN 5 and then ping VLAN 20.3. See if it's gonna work. It does work because just hold on. The first request timeout. Just hope it's working. All right, let's record the command and see if it's working. Exactly, it's working. So we will 10.2. We are pinging the second VLAN. It's also working. All right, this one is also working, right? So I'll go back to VLAN 20 and then ping VLAN 5 and then ping 192.168.5.2 is responding. We'll have 5.3 is also responding, I guess. It will respond. Yeah, it is responding. Then I'll ping 10.3. See if it is responding. Let's hold on. Yeah, it's also responding. And I'll ping 10.2. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, so they say the routing on stick is the reason why it's called routing on stick, because you are using one physical link, and then this physical link will make sure all the VLANs you create on this side travel through this interface toward the router, and the router will know, because of the encapsulation we've specified in each sub interface, the router will know where to forward the packet. So if the packet is coming from our VLAN 5, when it gets on the router knows that this one should be handled by this particular gateway. If it's coming from VLAN 10, the router also knows that this particular packet should be handled by the sub interface 10. If it's also coming from VLAN 20, it also knows that it needs to be handled by that particular gateway. This is actually how you do the routing or router on stick, and you could see it's looking nice compared to the previous one where we have to handle 3 different links. And this one is also more flexible, because if we have 5-10 VLANs, we still have one link, and then what we have to do is just create the sub interfaces on the router. I hope this video has been helpful to you, or if that's the case, like the video, subscribe to the channel, also share the video to the maximum. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.